We're back. You got me.
We're back. So Juneteenth.
Yeah, how was Juneteenth in Costa Rica?
It's not a thing. Well,
It's not a thing.
I'll be real. We don't leave our mountain. When I tell you I'm in this house, I'm in this house. But I was enjoying seeing, like, in Leimert Park, which is in my neighborhood, they had this huge, festival, and it was really beautiful. But I also found that a lot of people who I know are not on any side, descendants of anything that would like have this be a holiday that they should feel, give me some reparations about. And it was just like, I don't go to your Nigerian day and expect, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
the lack of respect for identity and for our right to identify ourselves and our unique history is constantly trampled, especially when you're from the US and you're a descendant of American chattel slavery. It's like everyone else gets to revel in and show value and respect for their identity except for us. And I'm really, really over that. And I made some posts about it because I was like, this will not fly. I will not be quiet about it. I won't. I know what this is. This is infuriating to me. You have to show us respect. You are an immigrant coming to this country because of what our ancestors laid the groundwork for you to benefit from. Be respectful. Period. There's no conversation more. I'm not going to have no back and forth with you. It's that simple. We really need to understand, and everybody does this, well, we're all Black, until it comes to your culture and your history, and you want that to be identified and respected, which we do.
We do.
But when it's the other way around, nobody has anything for us. I mean, not.
No, it's not. I thought, number one, I did not expect that this would become such like a big topic. Like, I made a video on this topic in like 2017, 18. And the only reason why I made a video on it was because somebody requested it. Somebody was like, hey, can you talk about like some like divisions within the diaspora and da-da-da-da. And like they asked me to talk about like something in particular, this like article that this Nigerian girl had written. And
I read it.
The article was about how, number one, how her family participated and benefited from the slave trade. And number two, how she's still reconciling with that as a Nigerian now living in the United States and knowing that she's getting some type of special privileges, and also knowing the way that her family feels about Black Americans and talks about Black Americans. This was an article that read in the New Yorker. I didn't make any of it up. I didn't write it. Like, somebody requested a video on it. I did a video on it, and people got so furious. And people like,
they were triggered. I know.
And I was like, I didn't write it. Like, I just talked about it. Like, she's the one that said, and like, and I tell people all the time, like, different things they need to read, like Black Like Them, which is an essay on this like exact topic. And so it's really funny to me to see that it's like we can't even have, for a lot of people, we can't even have the conversation about something we all know. We all know, like, we all know that it's true, especially those of us like me and you that have also experienced being a Black American abroad. So you know you get special treatment. Like, you know you do. And so
absolutely.
It just seems like so disingenuous to see people being like, no, I don't get no special
what
treatment.
What do you mean?
Like, we all Black, like we all like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, my family doesn't talk about, like, yes they do, you fucking liar. Like, shut up. And I do feel like that's like I do also feel that's why a lot of Black Americans are also starting to think more and talk also seriously more about like establishing our own, because a lot of people are even starting to feel like, damn, like nobody has our back. Like, white people definitely don't have it. Like, the non-Black persons of color, they don't have it. Even other Black people that are non-American Blacks, like, they don't have it. So like, what are we supposed to do? Like, how are we supposed to move forward? And so I'm happy to see a lot of people starting to seriously have conversations about like establishing communities and towns and, doing more things for ourselves, because it's just like we just cannot rely on anybody. Like, we just can't. No.
We have to be able to have the conversations. And be honest about it, you know. And I still, like, when I'm out, I'll meet people and they're like, are you Caribbean? Like, you look like you're from that. And I'm like, yeah, you know, part of my family is. And yeah, and like, I see you. I see what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like you're not.
Yeah, even that. I've had people refuse to believe that I'm a descendant of American chattel slavery. I've had people literally refuse to believe that. I've had people walk up to me and be like, oh, are you Trini? No. Are you sure? Yes. Like, yes, I'm sure. Like, there's like a huge East African population in DC, a lot of Ethiopians, a lot of Eritreans, a lot of Somalians. I've had people walk up to me and ask me if I'm Ethiopian, start talking to me, like, and I'm like, no, like, I'm a descendant of American chattel slavery. I've had people literally refuse to believe, and then not only refuse to believe, but like insist, like, no, you have to be Trini, or you have to be Eritrean, or you have to be this, or you have to be that. And then when you be like, well, why? Why do I have to be? And they'd be like, okay, Black Americans don't look like you do, or Black Americans don't act like you do, or Black Americans this, that. And it's like, well, what do you think? What's that about? You know, like, what's that
in LA
about?
growing up, it was well, you look different, as if the only thing that like made me attract, because I'm obviously a darker skinned woman. It was always like, oh, well, you're exotic. And I'm like, I am not.
Yeah,
like, why do you have to assume? Huh? What are you talking about? And it's this feeling that you can't be amazing and wonderful and beautiful just as you are, being a Black American as you are. I talked to my dad about that.
You're less than. They think we're less than.
It's always less than. You're always supposed to be seeking something else. You're always supposed to be seeking some other identity. You're always supposed to be seeking these other things. And like I said, having my grandmother like enforce that in me. And I was like, but that's not even like, you were born there, but my dad's not, and your daughter wasn't. And like, it's not the same for me. And I have pride in where you came from, but that's not even the majority of my experience as an adult. It's just this weird, like, in order. And she was like, but you could claim it, and that would give you otherness so that you could feel a little bit better.
So that you could get ahead.
So that I could get ahead. And I refused. Yes. And I resented it.
And I also feel like, for me, and maybe this is just like me digging my heels in, being hard-headed, but I also feel like, for me, that's another reason why I don't want to leave, because I feel like, no, like, number one, Black Americans should get what we are owed here in the United States. I shouldn't have to leave to go somewhere else. I shouldn't have to leave to go somewhere else to, like, number one, get what I'm owed here. And I shouldn't have to leave and go somewhere else to be like, it's, you know, like, I'm sure it would be easier, like, if I went somewhere else and I was like, yeah, I'm a Black American, and so I can, like, get a little something for being a Black American somewhere else, you know? And I'm sure it would probably be easier, but I just don't want to. Like, I refuse. It's like, no, I should get what I'm owed here in the United States. My ethnic group should get their respect here in the United States. I shouldn't have to leave and go somewhere else to get it. I should get it here, and I should get my respect. And all descendants of American chattel slavery, we should get our respect from white people, from non-Black POCs,
from everybody,
non-American Blacks, from everybody. And we shouldn't have to leave to get it. Like, we built this country. Like, literally, the fucking building that the Orange Cheeto is living in right now on Pennsylvania Avenue was, like, we built, like slaves built, like, all these Capitol buildings, all these schools, you know, all this infrastructure. Like, we built all of this. And so I should, like, not have to leave.
And somebody, like, kind of like clown low key. They're like, "Oh, you're a Sag. You're a Sag."
I am. I'm a Scorpio. I see somebody else said, like, you're an only child. I am. Like, I'm like, no. Like, I also have a lot of, like, for people that are into, like, astrology, I do also have a lot of, like, Libra in my chart.
So do I.
I have, like, a really strong sense of, like,
sense of justice.
And I'm like, it's not fair. And a lot of people are like, well, okay, it's not fair. It doesn't matter. I'm like, it does matter. Like, it does matter. Like, no, we need to get what we're owed here. And I just feel like, and I'm not going to stop until we get what we're owed here. Now,
listen, if you get into some shit and you need to lay low because we are dispersing and we'll have other places and we will all work together and communicate, you'll have somewhere that you can go. I have a stellium in Libra. I have 4 planets in Libra, and I'm a Scorpio. And I've always been very motivated by this sense of justice and what's correct and ma'at and balance. And when
hold on, I see a bug. Wait, hold on. There's a bug. I gotta kill this bug. What are you doing, bug? Sorry. Kill the bug. My bad. I'm back. I seen a bug.
No problem. I don't disagree that it's not fair. And I don't disagree that we're not owed this. I've said that. I've said that to everybody. But am I personally willing to use the years that I have in the fight against violence? No. I will fight against the other part, but I will not engage in the violence. I don't want to be under threat of death.
Fair.
I don't want that. I don't want that for my children. That's what I'm unwilling to do. You know, Hubs is like, let's go. I will blow myself up. Fuck all of this. Like, he's really
That's how
on.
I am.
Yeah,
That's
he's a Capricorn though. He's like, you know, like, so, and yeah, I'm like,
you know, when the FBI looks for me, you know, Costa
boom,
that's where it's at.
But not, I'm not willing to do, because part of my act of resistance also is giving myself access to peace.
Yeah. And
like living and having my children live a life where they have access to peace, like actual peace.
I'll say, like, you know, full disclosure, like, I don't have children. I'm not a mother. I'm not a parent. So that's also fair as well, you know, to be like, what's best for my kids. Me personally, that's not something I think about.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did. Like, I remembered just being in the violence of being in LA in the 90s and hearing the gunshots and seeing, you know, it was just like that violence affected me so deeply. And I did not want that to be my only experience or the orientation of being, you know, in fight or flight mode constantly because of the system that I was in. I didn't want that for myself. And I definitely didn't want it for my children. And so, you know, if there's a place that people can come to recuperate and heal and go back, great. Yes, because not everybody's job is to be on the front lines. It's not everybody's calling.
Right. That's why it bums me out. Because I did a video, Sour Love, I did a video called, like, Black Joy is Resistance also. It really bums me out that people feel like all resistance has to look like one thing.
Yes.
Like, some people, it's true, like, some people are, like, warriors, I guess you could say. And, like, some people want to fight. They want to fight. Like, some people have that. That's what they want. They cannot sit still. They can't chill. Like, they want to be active, fighting, warriors, all that stuff. And that's cool. But I definitely think that we glorify that type of ideal as resistance or, you know, like as revolutionary work. But it is also true that, like, you can't be in go mode 24/7. Like, you're going to burn yourself out or you're going to, like, kill yourself, like, exhaust yourself, all these things. And so I also really love that there's, like, more talk finally around, like, Black joy is resistance, like, Black healing is resistance. I saw somebody put, like, just being Black and surviving day to day, like, resistance. Like, it really is. Like, it is. So I feel like social media has made people much more, like, polarizing maybe, or, you know, like, stan culture too, maybe, of, like, well, I like this person and this is the way that, like, this person resists. So, like, that should be the way that everybody resists. And then putting this, like, stan culture mentality to it of, like, and if you're not resisting the way that my fave, even though I don't know how motherfuckers have faves in activism, but whatever. If you're not resisting the way that my fave is, then, like, you're wrong and, like, you're doing something wrong and, like, fuck you and, like, da-da-da-da-da. And I don't like that. I don't like that either.
But that's why these conversations, and I'm going to keep having these conversations because I want everyone to know that they have a place. As long as they're being active and they are moving from their genuine space, then their form of resistance is valuable and important because we all support each other. We
Right.
all support each other when we are on our task and we're actually putting in the work. So
Right.
this is part of how I'm putting in my work. I do spiritual healing. I do, and it's work and it's
Right.
important, but
It
we need
is.
to have these conversations, and we need to be supportive of each other, and we need to not be in judgment constantly. And there is so much judgment, and it's
Right.
like you cannot think differently, like you said. And really we can and we should. And we
Right,
need to.
exactly.
Yes,
People really trying to
exactly,
police
T.
others' healing and activism out here.
T is
Right,
on it. That's
exactly.
listen. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree with that. Do you think that you would ever come back to the States, or do you think you're going to stay in Costa Rica permanently?
I think that it's possible. I think it's highly, highly unlikely. What I think is more probable is that I will set up more of these communities because of, I speak different languages, and this is really my goal. So seeding other Black communities and getting everything organized and set up is really my long-term goal, honestly. Now, if there's a need or there's something that I can offer on the ground, I'm not a punk. I'll go. I don't have any issue with that. Things can change, but I feel like the work that I'm doing is kind of obscure and
It
people
is.
really don't respect it. And that I need to do more work in this arena so that people who do feel the way that I do, or some other amalgamation of it, know, because they can see representation of it, that there's other options. But you just got to do something.
Right.
I'm just like, don't just sit there and expect for other people to do work for you anymore. We all have to do something.
Yeah, I agree. How is it raising your children in Costa Rica, like as opposed to in LA or in the States, or because you said when you had
for one, so I have 3 kids here. I have 4 total. One stayed. He'll be 18 in August.
In the U.S., yeah. I was gonna say, I think you said one of them is in the U.S., yeah.
Yeah, he's in Los Angeles. I have, he'll be 18 in August. What? But which is insane. I had him at 19. So I have a 15-year-old son here, and then a 13-year-old girl and an 8-year-old girl. And one of the main things that all of us noticed was that there's very little police presence. Like, you can go all day and not see one, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. So there's a reduction in stress right there. The kids are so happy. Mm-hmm. My youngest runs around outside in her underwear, because we have acres of land, with our goats and the chickens, and she feeds the rabbits, and she's got locks, and she's outside in her underwear, barefoot, climbing trees all day long. Mm-hmm. The older kids go outside and play. They help with the animals. My oldest son right now, he's out with his friends, so he's, made some friends through school. But it's so chill. And they're so calm, and we have conversations, and they are aware about what's going on. And my son was telling me, and even in, my handful of acquaintances I've made, I've received nothing but understanding. Because when I leave and when I go to other places, I tell people, I've moved here because I'm escaping death and tyranny in my own country. I don't pretend as if it's anything else. I say all the stuff you hear going on there against Black people, it's real. And that's why I'm here. So when people see this, they go, we understand. I haven't received anything other than understanding and respect. I haven't. People here treat me the way they treat everybody else.
Do you miss your family? Because I feel like for a lot of Black Americans, I think a lot of Black Americans feel like, what about my family? Like,
they do.
What about, like, I can't leave my family. I can't. Do you ever see your family, or do you miss them, or?
I was there at New Year's trying to get my 89-year-old grandmother to come. I was trying to kidnap her and bring her here. She resisted. She's a Sag. She's a triple Sag. She was having none of it.
She was like,
none of it. She was like, no, I'm going to die in this apartment.
I'm going to die on Slauson. It's totally fine. I'm good.
Literally.
Yeah.
I love her so much, but oh my God. So I was there at New Year's, and what I've been telling people who said this to me, because this is genuinely how I feel. We're lonely right now, but if things worsen or if people start to feel different, they're going to go, oh, I have family in Costa Rica. Us being here is an act of love, because we are giving someone in our family who might need to feel like they have somewhere to go, somewhere to go.
Yeah.
Do I miss them? I talk to them, but I've always been, like I said, I'm a Scorpio. I'm a pretty private person, and I've always kind of been on my own, like, trajectory. So it doesn't affect me as much as like my husband. His family is very large. They're from New Orleans and they kick it and they hang out tough. But he was like, it's going to be so important for me to make this sacrifice of the distance so that I can give them other options as well. So we view this as a sacrifice. The food is a sacrifice. Our family is a sacrifice. Being around our folks, just seeing Black faces, it is a sacrifice. But I'm building what it is that I want. So I'm not bound. When I went to Brazil, I went because I knew that was going to be a culture that I would be able to more easily identify with. And it was. You know, I had very close friends that I still have to this day. I was in a relationship, like, you know, so it was different. And I think the different places in the world are going to suit one personality type more than another one. Yeah. And I do miss my family, but not enough to stay there and be, I don't want my family to bury me. Okay. I didn't want, you know what I mean? I didn't. So no, it's not very diverse. Costa Rica is full of white people. There are white people that speak Spanish. Where they are. Yeah. They don't have
somebody asked, is Costa Rica a diverse country?
Not really. And Brazil is problematic. It's extreme. Every other day somebody asks me whose house I worked in. Every other day. Brazil? Oh my God. Wow. I'm dark. It was whose house you work in?
You're dark, so you have to be a maid in Brazil.
Yes.
Wow.
A maid or a nanny or a cook. Period. And I lived in a nicer neighborhood. So then when I was like, no, I don't work for anybody, then it was like, oh, okay, so are you so-and-so's mistress? Or who is your
so-and-so's mistress?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the full range of what I could possibly be in all of
cook, nanny, or mistress.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, or prostitute. Yeah.
Or prostitute. So,
so with Costa Rica being like majorly white, you know, just like white, quote unquote, Hispanics, do you feel like, how do you feel when you leave your enclave?
The thing is, people don't stare at me.
Okay.
I don't get that.
Even though you're Black, you still don't feel scared?
No. I'm being 1,000% honest with you. Is what I noticed first when we came here. Because I noticed that I didn't see very many.
States, you'd be like, "Ooh, it's a lot of white people up in here." Like, where's the exit in case I take a quick getaway?
I don't feel like that here, and it wasn't because I was trying not to, but they don't give me. You know what? The Costa Ricans are generally speaking kind of closed, mild people. They're not. You know, you can be in a restaurant and it's packed to the gills, and you can still hear your conversation without yelling. Like they're quiet and they're mild. And they're not excitable, and they're just, and no one, I've never been stared at. Here's the racism that I have experienced. I owned a ice cream shop that was doing really well, and I wasn't very physically present. So when I was more physically present, I noticed that people just kind of stopped coming, right? So it was an economic withdrawal because they were uncomfortable. But I've never received any, because I also feel like stares and name calling, those are acts of violence. I've never experienced any race-related violence in the entire time I've been in this country. Never. I've been gringoed. You know, they've gotten me for money because I'm a foreigner and they assume that I could afford stuff. Like that's happened. That's going to happen. But specifically, other than when I was buying my house. And this is an interesting story. The lawyer for the owner of my house, the former owner of my house, is like 70 something years old, meaning that he was around when there was, when they didn't allow Black people to live in Central Valley. And I had gotten through the whole process of negotiation on the price of the sales terms, everything, sight unseen. Nobody had ever seen me because I know how that goes. So I'm usually not, people don't see me when I'm doing business. They just hear my voice and that's about it. So then we meet him. And after that, all of these problems arose. Oh, we're not sure about the contract. Oh, we're not sure about this. We're not sure about that. And I told my lawyers, I said, you know, this guy's a racist. He doesn't want to sell us the house because it's too good. He thinks it's too good for us. He doesn't believe that we should have it. Oh, no, that can't be it. There's no way. Fast forward, the day they were signing the papers on the property, he actually out of his mouth said, I wish I could be selling this house to anybody but you. He said it. And my
Wow.
lawyers were like, oh my God, it's what you said. Now this man, mind you, he's from Costa Rica, but I found out he had almost all of his education in the US and in Europe. And then he came back
To
here.
Costa Rica.
Yes. Other than that, and I mean this literally, in 2 years, I have not experienced any other overt racism. And the racism that I experienced, what I said was like avoidant, economic racism, but no stares, no snide remarks,
So you feel like
no.
you feel like you're willing to deal with that not like specifically the house thing, but just even like the more, like that it's majority white and the type of more quieter things that happened, that's a trade-off so that you don't have to be afraid of violence or like being killed by police.
I'm glad you said that, because here's the truth, Seren. Everything that I just described going through here, I experienced that in the States, and violence.
In addition to, yeah.
Yeah. And so if I'm going to deal with that anyway, because racism is global, but it's not deadly everywhere. Right. That's literally what I'm talking about. I'm still going to experience racism. I'm chocolate and I'm short and I'm a little pudgy. There's just all of that. It's going to follow me. But is death and violence going to follow me? No. No. So if I'm going to deal with it, I'd rather deal with it here, where I get the vast majority of my experience is normal. Instead of being in California, everybody thinks, oh, LA is not racist. Oh my God. A white liberal.
People think LA is not racist?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That was news to me.
It's insane.
Dang, I'm looking for a comment. I missed the comment. Somebody said a comment that I wanted to say something about. It was like way, way up. I remember the comment roughly, so I'm just going to paraphrase it. Somebody also had a comment that it said something like, other groups of people like leave their home country for a better life, so like why not Black Americans? And I feel like that's a really interesting statement, because I kind of feel like in Black American culture, I feel like in our culture we take pride in like not bailing on things.
Yes.
That's like, like if you bail on something or if you quit, I feel like in our culture that's kind of like looked down on. And so I think the concept of leaving, well, number one, I also think a lot of Black Americans have an issue with the concept of like, well, other people did it, so why can't we? Because Black Americans is like, well, I don't give a fuck what somebody else did. Like, I'm gonna do me. I think that there's like a lot of that in our culture. And I also think that there's a lot of like, like we don't cut and run culturally, this concept of like, we're not going to cut and run like our ancestors fought. And so we're going to fight, we're going to fight until we get what we're owed. I think for a lot of us, that's our mindset. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that mindset, because for anybody that like might have came in a little bit late and missed it, one of the things that I said early on in the live stream about me personally is that I cannot quit fighting, because for me personally, I can't quit fighting for the next person that they don't have the opportunity to leave. So be it they don't have the money to leave, be it they're a prisoner, they're sitting in prison and they can't leave, be it they're a felon, they're on parole so they can't leave. All these things that disproportionately impact Black Americans that have us, so there's people that literally cannot leave.
Yes.
So I would not feel comfortable, because I have the privilege, because now in a lot of ways we're talking about privilege. Yes. I have the privilege of leaving. I'm not a felon, so I don't have to check in with somebody every couple of weeks. It's people that can't even leave their state. Which,
true.
Like people sit around having these conversations about like, niggas never even left the country, da 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 da. Like niggas can't leave. Like they have an ankle monitor on. Like they cannot go. Like they can't even leave their house. Like they're on house arrest. Like they can't go anywhere. And so even if I have the privilege to leave, I feel like I have to, just me personally, part of my activism is that I have to stay and keep fighting for the people here.
Yeah.
I do think it's excellent to build globally, worldwide, like what you're doing, like Black American expats that are trying to create places where Black Americans can go, but not everyone can go.
No.
So who's going to work I feel like there are Black Americans that feel like, who's going to do the work if we all leave? And now this is probably petty, but like, I'm not leaving. Like, you're going to look at my fucking face. Like, you're going to look at my face. You're going to see my face every time. You know, like, I went to Portland, Oregon. I went to Voodoo Donut, which is like the big donut place.
Yeah.
They have this like donut that you can get that they can like write, you know, anything on it. This was like 4 years ago. They were like, what do you want me to put on your donut? I was like, put Black Lives Matter on my donut. And like the white person was like, yeah, put Black Lives Matter on my donut. Like, anywhere I go, you're going to look at my face. You're going to see me. You're going to hear me. You're going to hear me talking about how I'm a Black American. I'm a descendant of American chattel slavery. You need to run my people, our stuff. I'm not going to leave so you could just pretend that I'm not here. I don't exist.
True.
I'm not saying for the people that have left, that's why they left or what happened, you know, but I'm just saying for me personally, like,
yeah,
I just can't. Like, I just can't.
Well, it's important that you bring that up, because one of the things that we see with other groups of people who are immigrants in our country, right? You have some that speak to the plight of those that are from where they're from, and other ones that try to pretend that nothing has happened. Mm-hmm. And I take issue with those of us who have left, who aren't doing anything, who are utterly silent on the conditions that you left from. That's not me, but I'm in the minority. Right. And so we have a responsibility wherever we are to fight, because the system, to break down and to divest from systematic racism and oppression, which is global.
Yep.
We need to do the work wherever we are. When I was in Brazil, I was doing that work. When I was in Brazil, I was obnoxious, telling people, this is happening here. Don't ask me. You're asking me, oh, well, what is it? I'm watching
it. They have a white Nazi German ruling class. Like,
our work of tearing down systematic racism, it continues because it comes with me. It's in my blood. It's a part of who it is that I am. And so what I'm saying to those who will be expats like me is to not forget that your function is to always continue the fight and to support in any way that we can, because no, not everybody can go. But that's the case with everything. Not everybody can go, but we all have to do our work. And for me, that's the bottom line. You got to do your work wherever you are.
It is. I think, and I also think that that's why it's really important for us to continue to have these conversations around respectability politics, because I feel like a lot of people don't like poor Black people. They don't like, well, I'm going to leave it at that. I think a lot of people don't like poor Black people. I was going to say they don't like Black criminals either, but I feel like poor Black Americans by default are criminalized, like by default. And so it's like, they don't like poor Black Americans. They don't like criminals, like we're criminalized. All these things happen to us in the United States. And I definitely think that you have a lot of people that they just forget, like, maybe forget isn't the right word, but they don't care. Like, they don't care about Black American. They don't care about the criminalized person. It's just like, well, I, and this is what I mean when I say respectability politics. It's like, well, I got out. I could get out. I'm good. I think that's also a part of the hyper individual American mindset, because Americans are like individualistic, like me, I, me. We're not really, in a lot of ways, Black Americans are raised to think about collectives and collectivism because we're Black. But I think for Americans in general, it's very hyper individualistic, I guess. And so you have a lot of people that's like, I don't care, like, as long as I get on,
to our detriment.
As I get out, I'm chilling, I'm a chill, and I'm gonna live in Costa Rica. I'm gonna live my best life and fuck them little niggas back in the U.S. And that's not it. And I seen some of you guys brought up James Baldwin. James Baldwin is like a perfect example.
And Nina Simone.
I love thinking about James Baldwin to like challenge myself even, because it's like James Baldwin had to leave. Like, he left the United States. He was just like, I can't take it anymore. It's killing me. It's affecting me. And so, like, physically, mentally, emotionally, all that. Yeah. And so it's like he left, he moved to Europe, and while he was in Europe and he had the space, yes, Nina Simone, Eartha Kitt, yes. And while these artists had the space, you know, mentally, emotionally, because they were not here, they were able to write and create works that were like hugely influential and healing in terms of revolutionary work and for Black Americans. And so I do like to think, you know, give myself the little brain exercise of like, if James Baldwin had never left and he had stayed that whole time, like would some of those works even exist? You know, it's like, I don't know. It's like, I totally understand feeling like you need that space. It's hard.
I would not be able to do the work and commit myself to the work that I'm doing if I had not have left. Because I've always been Marina. I've always been
left LA. So you don't think you could have done it somewhere else in the United States even? You felt like you had
I lived in Texas for a while. I owned a home. Like for a while it was like, oh, well, if I can just get out of this extremely expensive, because LA is outrageous. And if I could just have a backyard and some trees and just like, but the tension around fear, around all of it, it didn't leave. It didn't leave. Like maybe you don't want to move forever. Maybe you just want to have some time away from your abuser. You know, like I mean, like really, like being in that constant pressure of survival nonstop. Like you said, it will burn you out. It will. I've been able to come into my own in such a powerful way in such a short period of time because my energy wasn't constantly occupied.
You weren't so stressed out.
So stressed. I remember going to work in Manhattan Beach because I was an electrologist and I had an office in Beverly Hills and in Manhattan Beach. And just the drive from Beverly Hills to Manhattan Beach, the terror of being pulled over, looking in my rearview mirror constantly, looking next to me to see if someone was road raging and getting ready to like act. Because the violence isn't just from police.
It's not.
It's not. The United States is an incredibly violent place. And violence can happen at any time. And so just constantly being in this heightened space and the exhaustion that I felt and then coming here, it takes like a year just for you to calm down. A lot of it was just
American culture overall.
Yes.
You were tired.
Exhausted. It was draining me in a way that I didn't even have words for. And so now I can speak and I can open my mouth and I can have conversations and I can allow energy for healing of others and have, you know, all of these things that I'm able to do now that I was not able to do before. I was crippled. I had gotten to a place where I was under so much pressure and worry about my children and my house and like sleeping on a hair trigger, like hearing a car pass by too fast. Drive by, oh my God, like, I couldn't do it anymore. And like you said about the criminalizing or the not liking Black people, feeling threatened constantly. Like I didn't even feel like I could walk through my neighborhood at night because not only am I afraid of police, but I'm also afraid of attack. And in my own communities, probably from a young Black man. I didn't want to, it was like all of these concepts that when conceptualized on paper, I didn't agree with, but I was feeling that way and didn't want to be honest about it because of how it made me feel. And it was like, I don't even feel like I have room to operate in the level of humanity and love for my own people that I would like to, because I'm so unhappy just in my own self. It was necessary, but it was a process, you know? And like I said, I had left for 5 years, came back for 8 and then left again. So, you know, I didn't want to come back. When I first came back, I didn't want to come back. It was hard. It was hard.
It is hard. And I do feel like this is why I say everything is not for everybody. Like I feel like when we talk about revolution work and stuff and like, you know, collectives of people getting involved, like everybody is different. Everybody handles things differently in terms of emotion, mental, physical, stress. Everybody handles everything different. And so like I've literally had arguments with people that they're like, I feel like I'm getting an ulcer because I'm like constantly trying to explain to white people racism and this and this and this. And I'm like, you don't have to explain racism to number one, white people understand racism. Like
very well.
White people understand racism. Like they made it up. They understand it. I don't even know how that even became a thing. Of like, explain racism to me. Like, white people understand. Like, they're the masters of racism. Like, what?
Yeah.
So I was like, you don't have to explain racism to white people. Number one, they get it. And number two, if it's giving you an ulcer, if you really literally feel like you're making yourself sick, why you don't have to like climb up on the cross and like crucify yourself so that white people can learn about racism. You just don't have to do that.
Yes.
And then they were like, well, if I don't do it, like, how are they going to learn and all this other stuff? And I was just like, that's not your problem. Like, that's for the person that could handle that. There's people that they could sit on Twitter and all types of stuff all day long, arguing with white people and talking about race with them and all this stuff, and it doesn't affect them.
Google.
You know, like there's all type of people that it doesn't affect them mentally, it doesn't affect them spiritually, emotionally. That's something they can do. They have the mental fortitude for that. You have some people that they, like me personally, I get really angry. Like angry, rage is like my favorite emotion. It's like my go-to emotion. Like I get I use my anger for things. For me, just me. For me, anger and rage is like a productive emotion because I get mad, I get worked up, and I hit that computer, I start reading, I start Googling, or I start typing, or I film a video, or, I start writing, I start doing all these things. That's me. I know people personally that are more sensitive than I am. Rage and anger for them is debilitating. They cannot get upset. They get upset and they get a stomach ache, or they throw up, or, all types of things. So it's like that person can't do the same type of work that I do because they will make themselves sick. They have to be able to, everybody has to be able to do their own thing. And so, I feel like it's totally understandable that if you felt so stressed out and that you were living, like under so much emotional stress, you were just like, I have to improve my mental state. I feel like that makes perfect sense. And I feel like people need to know themselves. Black people and Black Americans.
Know yourself.
We need to know ourselves. We really need to like sit down, have some heart-to-hearts with ourselves, and understand the type of person that we are. And especially if we're talking about, people that are involved in activism and revolutionary work, you have to like sit down, have a heart-to-heart with yourself, understand yourself, what type of person you are, your emotions, and how you can be best, I guess, of service in the movement or whatever. Because like everybody's revolution is not going to look the same.
Exactly.
I feel like I keep bringing up social media, but I really feel like social media has motherfuckers in a box thinking like this is how revolution work has to look. And if they're not doing that, then like,
well, like I said, nobody will talk to me. Nobody will talk to you. Nobody wants to have the conversation because it's like, well, if you're not talking about, but we all have a space, and your knowledge of self and listening to your small voice and being clear about who it is that you are is going to make your next steps clearer. But if you don't know who you are because you're trying to fit in a box because somebody said you have to do X, Y, Z, then that's not what we're being called to. We're called to be in action and in awareness of ourselves and our role, and to be supportive and respectful of everyone's contribution. Mm-hmm. Everyone deserves to be respected because they are doing the work. If you are doing the work, whatever that work looks like, that deserves to be respected, and there's space for it. And we have to do better about being respectful and kind and empathetic to each other in those expressions. We have to. And I was like, I don't care if we're going to talk tomorrow, we're going to talk tomorrow. If it was next week, we're going to do it next week.
Oh my God, I felt so bad.
No, it's fine.
I felt so terrible. I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe it.
No, somebody asked, why do people not want to talk? Because people dismiss my type of activism because I'm no longer in the States, and I do spiritual work, and I talk about us feeling comfortable being, global citizens and creating communities. And I think a lot of people don't talk to Seren because a lot of her positions are very staunch and clear, and people don't feel comfortable. Like identifying yourself as a descendant of American chattel slavery, or even, and this is something I just wanted to touch on because it's been on my heart. I'm over making it okay or participating in a perspective that allows the white gaze to define Blackness. I'm over that.
Yes,
all that old Black people look at us, they think we're Black, so I don't participate in it. One drop don't make nothing for me, and I'm not participating in it.
I can't remember which video I said that in. It might have been Weird Different. I was like, and y'all keep saying, well, white people and police all see us the same. I was like, the center of my identity is not what a white person or what a police officer thinks. I am not gonna go along with the thinking of, well, a white person thinks we're all the same, so we're all the same. What is that? Literally, what is that mindset? I really don't even understand what that mindset is. That's also even how I feel about the term person of color. The term person of color centers whiteness. Like, it means like there's white and then there's POC. So like white is the norm and the standard, and the rest of us are other. Like, we're persons of color. Like, that's, again, like, white people aren't even the majority worldwide. So everything is like centered around this white gaze and how white people see us. And I definitely do not.
I'm over it.
That at all.
I refuse. I refuse, and people get mad at me. I mean, big mad. Big mad when I say, listen, people that look like me, women that look like me, are experiencing very purposeful erasure. And if you won't speak about it, and you won't be honest about certain privileges that are given to you because you have green eyes, because you have lighter skin, because whatever, every time someone brings up different aspects of the result of the systems that we've been oppressed in, and you try to silence me, you're behaving in the same type of way. It's not, we have the right to remove whiteness as the center, to remove our identity from being defined by them and define it for ourselves. And that's, and people don't want to fuck with me because I say stuff like that, but that's really how I feel.
I agree with you. I also feel like it's something really weird and sick about like defining people's entire culture by white violence or something. It's like when you say like Black Americans have our own culture, for example, like we have our own culture, we have our own ethnicity, this and this and this, and then people be like, no, we're all the same, because like if a white person stops us, we're both going to get killed the same. That does not mean you're a Black American because a white person will kill you. Like, there's more to being a Black American culturally and in terms of ethnicity.
Oh my God.
Even if you're Black in the United States, okay, but there's still more to like culture and ethnicity than like white violence. Like, white violence is not the center of our identity. Like, it's really not. Like, white violence does not run my world. It's very weird. Like, people have white people on the brain 24/7, and they really don't believe that Black people have any type of culture or cultural identity outside
or
of
agency.
The white gaze. That's
or
really,
even agency
That's
to declare.
Really scary to me a little bit. Like,
but we've been participating in it for so long, and we've been rewarded for participating in these systems for so long that a lot of us are resistant to removing it. We don't want to speak up. You know, I've had people go, well, why do you think Rachel Dolezal was able? Because of this, because of exactly what we're talking about. Because we don't have agency to say yes, no, you know, persons, because everyone feels comfortable.
She got outed. So I feel like people, when this story first broke, I was like obsessed with it because I was like, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. So I've done a lot of reading about it, and she actually got outed, and they still to this day, I don't think they know exactly who outed her, but like some anonymous person, I'm sure this was a fucking Black person, Black American, some anonymous Black person in the NAACP was like, I don't think that she's Black. I think that she's like lying. And they like sent an anonymous tip to like a local paper, and then the paper started like digging into her, whatever the paper was, and then the paper was the one that like published this like whole expose on her, and then it like caught steam and it became this like national story. So, but somebody was like, that ain't no nigga, like, but they didn't feel like they could say it publicly, so they said like an anonymous
we don't feel comfortable letting go of these frameworks for defining who we are that were created by white people that we still participate in. That would not happen if we felt comfortable in our identity actually and declaring it as such. No one else seems to have that issue. It's like, it's really weird. It's weird.
I feel like it's because Black Americans are the mule. We're the mule for white people. We're the mule for non-Black persons of color, and we're the mules of the diaspora. We are the mule. We're seen as without agency. We're seen as without culture. We're seen as everything that we do is supposed to be for the good of everybody, because historically everything that we've done has benefited everybody. Like,
yes,
we fought we fought for affirmative action, and like the number one beneficiary and recipient of affirmative action is like a white woman. Like, it's the same thing with like welfare and like government assistance. Like the number one beneficiary is like a white woman. Like, we fight for things and then everybody gets ahead. And so I feel like there is a global mindset of Black American culture as like the mule, and that we're not supposed to have agency, we're not supposed to talk. And when we do talk, there's this knee-jerk reaction of, shut up, you're wrong. Shut up, you're wrong. You
how dare you? How dare you?
Right, and how dare you? How dare you even attempt, be it we're all Black, be it all lives matter, be it we're all POC, we're all in this together, we're all on the same side as everybody against racism.
I get to call you nigga because I'm poor too. Like, Blackness is the same as being economically disadvantaged in some kind. It's weird.
We're poor too. Yes, exactly. Like, there's always this pushback against everything we say and do. And I really think it's because, like, on a certain level, everybody understands that if they step on the neck of a Black American in some way, shape, or fashion, they're going to get ahead. I think people deep down, they understand that. They grasp that point. Like, we are seen as the permanent underclass in the United States.
Woo!
Going back to slavery, you know?
Yes.
Which I always recommend that people read, Working Towards Whiteness. There's an essay and there's also a book. They talk in depth about, like, Irish people became white.
Yes.
When they came here, it was like, no, we're not Black. Like, we're not like them. Y'all might not like us because we have red hair, this and the third, but like, at least we're still white. And then it was like, you know what? You are still white. Come on.
The Irish and the Jews had to fight for inclusion in American whiteness. And once they could, boy, did they ever.
Did they ever.
The Polish,
Somebody also had a comment, which I remembered, but I wanted to say. Somebody asked you, do you know of any countries where there are larger Black expat populations?
Black expats?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a sizable Black expat community here. They actually live in Grecia. And there's a relatively large Black expat community in Panama, and there's a very large one in Belize. I didn't go to Belize for other reasons because I don't like natural disasters and mosquitoes, but that's personal. There's a lot of Black expats.
I personally have an issue with mosquitoes. Like, I personally don't fuck with them on a personal fucking level.
Or hurricanes and flooding. Like, I'm from Cali. I can do an earthquake. I can't do flooding up to my hips and mosquitoes. Like, that's
so you couldn't live in Miami?
No, I couldn't. Yeah. No, never. I have a lot of family that live there, and no, absolutely not. No, mosquitoes and flooding? Are you crazy? And racism? No. But there's a lot of Black expats in Belize, and there's a lot in Brazil too.
Okay. So yeah, there are some of you guys that were asking. I think I got behind on some of the comments, but I lived in Miami for a few years, and I felt like the weather was really, really, really unreasonable. And I was just like, I can't deal. And it was also racist.
Extremely.
Like,
Girl,
no.
It
was also fucking racist as fuck. I was just like, I don't have to deal with fucking extreme heat, rain, hurricanes, clouds of bugs and mosquitoes, and racism. Like, and when I walk down the street, I have people yelling racial slurs at me out the window. Like, I don't have to put up with this type of thing. So, and I did leave, you know, I left. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand the mindset of like, I don't have to put up with this shit, but I'm not, I feel like I have to stay. I also see you guys talking about Rachel Dolezal, which I also wanted to say something about Rachel Dolezal. Somebody said she was saying all the right things, but in blackface. I also think that goes back to respectability politics and the way that we want to view our quote unquote activists in a certain light or as being a certain way, because there were a ton of like Black academics that were like, it's fine, like it doesn't really matter that she's fucking in blackface, because they were like, she went to school and she took all the African American studies classes and she has all these degrees and now she works for the NAACP. They were like, you know, she's doing the work. Like, she's putting in more work than, you know, those poor Black American criminals. It's like, but she's not Black. She's not Black. It doesn't matter. Like, no, she doesn't get to be Black. I think that
whole situation with her was very telling about our perspectives, because I was absolutely horrified by how many people were like, oh, but she has Black kids and her parents adopted Black people.
Yeah.
So what and it's like, what? Because in our minds, like I said, it goes back to a lack of sense of having a right to have an identity. We also assign a certain level of struggle, a certain level of whatever to Blackness. And we just, oh, well, it's okay. You can put it on and take it off like a coat. And it's insane. But so many people were arguing and saying, well, she's doing the work and she's doing the stuff.
A lot of people did.
A lot of people said that. And I was like, y'all are really, like, this is a mental illness. What are you talking about? Like,
a lot of people did say that. So I have a whole playlist on Rachel Dolezal. For anyone
it's
that
great.
wants to, like, look into that situation, you guys can look into it because I have a playlist of videos on her. I was in they did a Netflix special on her that, like, I was in. So, like, a lot of
Seren has a million videos. I have like 5 because I just
videos.
You have a million videos
on so many times because that's what I'm saying. Like, I personally get mad about shit and I just be like, turn the camera on, like. And another thing, my Rachel Dolezal playlist, because I also felt like people were using that to get into, like, some other things of, like, how they really feel about Black women and, like, a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I did a whole series of videos where I was like, no, like, deep down, this is what it is. Like, y'all want her to be Black. You feel some type of way about actual real Black women. Y'all are trying to fucking say that race is a construct or something. Like, I know we
transferable.
That, like, race. I know we try to say that, like, race is a social construct, but that doesn't mean that, like, just because she went to fucking Howard and she's in the NAACP, she gets to be Black by default. Like, that's not the way that it works. Like, no, stop all this shit. Like, right? Like, it was a whole conversation on cultural Blackness. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, because cultural Blackness allows for people of color and your friends to call you a nigger and you don't say anything about it. And it's just like, what?
Gina Rodriguez.
Huh?
Who then was like, I grew up in the Bronx. What is that supposed to mean to me? Like, okay, you grew up in the Bronx. You're not Black. Like, you're not Black, so you cannot say the N-word. Saying you grew up in the Bronx and you identified with Black people in music and television does not, because that's what she said. She was like, I grew up in the Bronx. I always identified with, like, Black American culture because when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of Hispanics on TV.
Listen.
So I used to watch the Black shows and listen to the Black music. Right. And
in Los Angeles, it's rampant. Our Mexican and Guatemalan and whoever, rampant, okay? And I'm like, when did this happen? Why are your friends allowing this? Like, why is this a thing? It's a problem. It's a problem.
And again, I think it goes back to Black Americans and especially Black American culture being seen as, you know, it's up for grabs. It's up for grabs. It belongs to everybody. Getting back to what you were saying about, you know, Juneteenth, and that it's up for grabs, that it belongs to everyone, and that our whole experience is supposed to be centered around whiteness. And so whiteness and capitalism, because the whole, like, we're poor. And so anyone that has some type of negative experience with whiteness and capitalism, they love to equate that to Blackness. Like,
and
like,
it's not
as if
the
they
same.
know what it is to be Black, or as if that makes them Black. And especially even a Black American. And it's like, you could be Black, but you still don't even know what it's like to be
though, as gatekeepers, have some cleaning of our house to do.
We do.
We need to be having these conversations and directing our young people. Like I said, I'm an auntie, you know, I'm a proud auntie now. I've gotten to this place in my life where I can say that. And we have to have these conversations with our young ones, with our nieces and nephews, and tell them, hey, this is,
it's not
you have
cool.
a right to identify yourself. You have a right to have a culture that belongs to you. You have that right. And starting with that sense of self-esteem, because it is esteem of oneself, to feel comfortable in the skin that you're in the culture that you are in, and not always seeking other and valuing other over who you are. And we got to work